unfortunately, this is unfair, but I heard in the two responses that one was it's uncomfortable, or discussing race for white people makes them not okay with the conversation, the guilt, and then again it puts them in a bad place, I guess, kind of. And I feel like that's so unfair. Like you're saying,
yeah,
that on the flip side would be, geez, shouldn't that be so much easier for us to come to terms and discuss it? When on the flip, that is so much worse. So I feel like that's kind of, we're giving each other an out, right? I mean, you're saying, you're discussing it as saying.
It's more an explanation rather
Okay,
than
then.
beating your head against a wall. But,
Okay,
you
fair
know,
point.
and falling out of relationship. I think it's a process that may happen over time, but a lot of people are just not gonna do it.
Kind of like a stages of grief thing, that's
Yeah,
just where they
absolutely.
are to deal with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like, I mean, I worked with dying people for a long time, and if a person was not ready to acknowledge that they were dying, you could kind of stay a couple of steps ahead by suggesting some things that they were not seeing. But generally, it didn't work to pound on it,
Okay.
you know, and I'm not excusing.
Seeds. I say like plant
Yeah, plant seeds.
seeds.
Yeah.
Teaching this kind of subject matter to students, I've heard like every imagine, you know,
Me too.
some students say like, I'm afraid to write how I feel on my paper because if you disagree with it, and I'm like, trust me, I have heard everything teaching this class, so go for it. I'd rather have you put it on there. I'm not saying that I'm not gonna challenge you on it, but I'm not gonna adopt you. What else? Comments, questions?
But I do think, I have led a privileged life. I mean, life has been good for me, the college, I've never had to seek a job, they found me. And so when I use that phrase with, and I come from a lovely family that would in a heartbeat say they're not racist. And at times, before I became a social worker, things didn't feel right, but what becoming a social worker did for me 20 years ago is gave me the verbiage. I learned the new one tonight, but it's the verbiage to say, well, this is not okay. So the reverse racism would be what people, white, what they would say, and I would say, well, but if you look at, because I'm a data person, and so, but you're right that you can't pick that battle every time, but over the past 20 years as a social worker, at least if someone's got the courage to bring it up in a conversation, they at least are, I'm going to take their back. And that's been, at least for me, a way to try, because safety's in numbers and I don't want someone to stand alone, but more times than not, especially since I've got my degree, it'll be one or two non-white person, and then everybody else in the room is white. And so for someone to say, this is not okay, I'm being singled out, even if I don't see it, I'm gonna help the group pause, because I am outspoken. So, I mean, but I think that's how we're going to try and come together and support someone who does have the strength to bring it out. Because it takes a lot of courage to even start the conversation in a
But
room.
here's the thing, I think, as white people, we need to talk about this and bring this up. It's very, I can only go back to, I go back to my experience as a gay man, which is like, I'm willing to call people out for being homophobic, but it gets really exhausting and tiresome when I have to do it all the time. I would love it for one of my straight allies to say that's homophobic, and I think it's the same thing, like, we cannot put the burden of calling this stuff out onto the very people that are you know what I mean? So that's what I mean by
I truly
using your
don't see
privilege.
it until someone will call it out. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh my, and especially now that I've gotten old, because I can, I'm in my 50s now, so I can say, oh my goodness, I let that slip by me. But at least it seems like I have a better ability to pause a group just because I'm not what, you know what I mean? It's
Well,
because
it's
I'm
like
white, and I've
what-
had,
Yeah, what McIntosh said, I call it dropping the veil, you know, like we kind of go around with blinders or this veil. Like, once that veil is dropped, like, you know, it's painful. It's so much easier to pull it back up. But drop the veil, take some of the responsibility, and use your privilege to try and educate.